Chapter 861. Not far away from Li Yunqi and Li Guangxing, Yi Xian stood there quietly. He was in an empty space, so the two of them couldn't find him at all. When he heard Li Guangxing's words, Yi Xian didn't feel happy, nor did he gloat. On the contrary, Li Guangxing gave him a reminder. People often thought that they were smart, thinking that everything was under their control. They didn't know that they were in the hands of others. Don't think too highly of yourself and don't think too highly of others. Yi Xian glanced at Li Guangxing, who was not far away, and then quietly retreated. At this time Li Yunqi disappeared. He was heading to the Worldwide Academy. As Li Guangxing had said, Shanghai didn't have such a treasure. If Shanghai dared to take it for themselves, they wouldn't live past the next day. Although Shanghai wasn't weak in the vast fifth dimension, Shanghai wasn't considered the top. There weren't many forces that could destroy Shanghai, but there weren't many either. Therefore, when he obtained this treasure, Li Guangxing had already decided to hand it over. Of course, he wouldn't hand it over for nothing. Shanghai could use it to obtain many benefits. Li Guangxing glanced around, a trace of doubt in his eyes. At this moment he suddenly remembered something. Just now, someone had secretly helped him. Who was it that helped him? What was the other party's goal? Li Guangxing frowned. On the other side, Yi Xian was sitting cross-legged in space. He asked in his heart, Miss Lian Qian, just now I saw them use that talisman. What kind of talisman was it? A moment later, Lian Qian's voice rang out. In this world, there's a profession known as a talisman master. This kind of person can gather all sorts of powerful energies and spatial divine abilities, and then draw them into a talisman. With this kind of talisman, even if you're an ordinary person, you'll still be able to release a powerful force. There are also strong and weak talismans. From weak to strong, they are blue, red, purple, orange, and the legendary black. The higher the level of the talisman, the more power it contains. Yi Xian frowned slightly. In other words, this kind of power isn't your own? Lian Qian said, yes. However, these runes are like your executing heaven sword. Do you think the executing heaven sword is considered your own power? Yi Xian was silent. Lian Qian continued, in the fifth dimension there are not only talisman masters, but there are also alchemists and some refiners. These professions have extremely high statuses in the fifth dimension. In the past, before I went down, our fifth dimension already had talisman sect, medicine king sect, and refiner sect. These sects are extremely powerful and are only second to some special forces. Yi Xian asked, what special forces? Lian Qian said, for example, the Azura Hal. Yi Xian frowned. Why is Linger a special force? The blacksmith said, I can't explain it to you either. In short, that place isn't simple. Even the current Myriad Dimension Academy doesn't dare to provoke that place. Yi Xian asked in a deep voice, Miss Lian Qian, what is the strongest power in the fifth dimension? Lian Qian said, it used to be the Myriad Dimension Academy because Master was there, but after Master disappeared, it might have been the Master of the fifth dimension. However, so much time has passed, so this place must have changed. Therefore I don't know. Yi Xian nodded slightly. At this time, Lian Qian said, don't look down on those runes, especially those that have reached the purple level. The power contained within these runes is extremely powerful. You might not be able to resist it. Yi Xian frowned. So powerful? Lian Qian said, it is very powerful. Take a purple power rune for example. The power it contains is not inferior to your current power. Most importantly, it only needs to consume a bit of the user's spirit chi. If you were to use a powerful power, it would consume a lot of your own spirit chi. If this goes on, you'll definitely be at a disadvantage. And if you encounter an orange rune, the power of this rune is even more powerful. You must be extremely careful when you encounter this kind of rune. Don't be careless. Yi Xian suddenly said, Miss Lian Qian, what rank is my Dao Law in this place? Lian Qian was silent. Yi Xian asked, what's wrong? Lian Qian said, I almost forgot about this. Yi Xian was a little puzzled. What do you mean? Lian Qian said, runes are within the scope of laws and Dao laws are higher than laws. To put it simply, if you have the spatial Dao law, then all spatial runes are useless against you. In other words, you can easily suppress the other party. And your Dao law is a rune that targets the power of the earth and the power of the earth veins. In any case, as long as the other party borrows the power of the earth, your Dao law can suppress them. Yi Xian suddenly asked, what about the Dao law of dreams? Lian Qian said, in this world there are some mysterious cultivators who specialize in the power of dreams. I remember that there was a dream accessing sect in the past. This sect had asked Master many times for the Dao law of dreams, but Master didn't give it to them because the sect leader of the dream-accessing sect was very ambitious. Yi Xian said with a smile, Miss Lian Qian, in other words, as long as you are here, any sealing runes are useless against me, right? Lian Qian said, you can say that. Yi Xian smiled slightly. At this moment he realized how terrifying the Tao laws he possessed were. At this moment Lian Qian suddenly said, you have to be careful of a profession, curse masters. These people are very strange. If you encounter them, you must not underestimate them. Yi Xian was a little curious. What's a curse master? Lian Qian said, it's a rather evil profession. Back then the founder of this profession was the Cursed Woman. She once used an extremely powerful forbidden heavenly curse technique on Master. However, she brought disgrace upon herself. In the end she was suppressed and sealed by Master. However, this woman was also very powerful back then. Especially those curse techniques of hers, they are very strange. Because their curse techniques are based on karma, once you are entangled by them, you will be plagued by bad luck. In short, if you encounter such people you have to be very careful. Yi Xian nodded, understood. Lian Qian continued, if there's a chance you can find a powerful blacksmith and ask him to help you inscribe runes on your executing heaven sword. Yi Xian said in a low voice, do I need to inscribe runes on my sword too? Lian Qian said, runes can't replace your sword, but they can play a very good supporting role. For example, if there's an additional purple rune on your sword, the power of your sword will become even stronger. Or, if there's an additional rune that reduces consumption, then when you use this executing heaven sword, the consumption of spiritual energy will be greatly reduced. Yi Xian was a little curious, can it be done like this? Lian Qian said, yes, you can try it in the future. Yi Xian nodded. He raised his head and looked not far away. At this moment, several powerful auras came from the horizon. Jun Wuxian and the others had arrived. The corner of Yi Xian's mouth lifted slightly. The show was about to start. In the sky above Shanghai, Li Guangxing looked at the horizon. He smiled coldly without a trace of fear. Soon Jun Wuxian and the others appeared in front of Li Guangxing. Jun Wuxian looked at Li Guangxing and slowly clenched his right hand. Just as he was about to attack, Li Guangxing suddenly said, everyone, do you really want to fight to the death? Jun Wuxian looked at Li Guangxing. If this item was obtained by your Shanghai Li clan, my Qing nation would definitely not touch it. However, this item was not obtained by your Li clan alone. It was obtained by everyone together. What right does your Li clan have to keep it to yourself? Li Guangfeng said in a low voice, Jun Wuxian, if it wasn't for Yunqi's plan, we wouldn't have been able to obtain this item. Therefore it's only right that this item belongs to the Li family. Jun Wuxian still wanted to say something, but Lin Miaoyin suddenly spoke up, why are you wasting time with him? He's obviously trying to take it for himself. As soon as she finished speaking, she took a step forward and squatted down. At the same time, the guqin behind her appeared in front of her. She lightly plucked it with her fingers. The sound of the guqin resounded abruptly, and then the space in front of Li Guangxing was suddenly torn apart. Li Guangxing's eyes narrowed slightly, and then he suddenly stretched out his arms. After that, a pair of golden bracers appeared on his arms, and then he crisscrossed his arms and suddenly raised them forward to block the attack. Bang! 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 Numerous explosions resounded incessantly in the surroundings. Strands of white light that were as thin as a needle and thread were shuttling about incessantly around Li Guangxing, and Li Guangxing used his arms to resist them. Bang! Bang! Li Guangxing retreated repeatedly. A short moment later, he suddenly stomped his right foot on the ground, and then a ray of golden light suddenly erupted from his arms. Bang! The space in the surroundings trembled violently, and then it started to crack like a spider web. On Li Guangxing's arms were two strings that were as thin as a needle and thread. Moreover, countless cracks had appeared on Li Guangxing's golden bracers as well. The corners of Li Guangxing's mouth curled up slightly as he gazed at Lin Miaoyin. What a great sound attack! It really does live up to its reputation. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly pressed his palms together, and the bracers suddenly fused into a golden spear. He leaped up and stabbed the spear down from midair, and then a ray of light rained down from the tip of the spear like an umbrella. Lin Miaoyin glanced up at the sky, and then she suddenly pressed her hands against the zither strings. In the next moment she suddenly released them. Bang! A deafening sound of a zither suddenly resounded, and then a ray of white light shot into the sky and enveloped Li Guangxing within it. Rumble! The space in the surroundings trembled, and then both of them retreated repeatedly. After Li Guangxing stopped moving, he gazed at the spear in his hand, and it had completely cracked apart. He waved his right hand lightly, and then a violet talisman suddenly appeared on the spear. In next to no time, the spear started to repair itself at an extremely swift pace. Lin Miaoyin suddenly said, "Let's attack together." Jun Wuxian nodded slightly, and he was just about to attack when a formidable aura suddenly appeared in the distance. Li Guangxing suddenly roared with laughter when he noticed the formidable aura. Ha ha ha. It didn't take long for an old man in a white robe to appear in front of Li Guangxing. There was a small dimensional character on his chest. An expert from Myriad Dimension Academy. The old man gazed at Li Guangxing. "Where's the treasure?" Li Guangxing smiled. "So it's Elder Li Jinwu. Welcome to Shanghai, Elder Li." Li Jinwu gazed at Li Guangxing. "The treasure?" Li Guangxing nodded slightly and then he opened his palm. However, there was nothing in his palm. Li Guangxing frowned slightly, and then his expression changed in next to no time. "The World Prison Pagoda? The pagoda?" Li Guangxing's face was filled with astonishment. P.S. Because of the inspection, the update was delayed. Sorry. Chapter 862. At this moment, Li Guangxing's face was pale, and his hands were trembling. The pagoda had vanished. He didn't know how it had vanished. All he knew was that if he didn't take out the pagoda now, he would die without a complete corpse. Not only would he die without a complete corpse, but Shanghai would be dragged down as well. But why did the pagoda vanish? Li Guangxing's mind was filled with questions. Meanwhile, Li Jinwu from the Worldwide Academy frowned. "What's wrong?" Li Guangxing spoke in a low voice. "The pagoda is gone." "It's gone?" Everyone was stunned when they heard this. Li Jinwu was slightly stunned as well, and then his eyes narrowed slightly while a cold glint flickered within them. "Are you playing with the old man?" Li Guangxing spoke in a low voice. "Elder Li, the treasure really has vanished." "How dare you!" Li Jinwu suddenly roared furiously, and then he flicked his sleeve, causing a powerful force to sweep out. Bang! Li Guangxing instantly retreated explosively. On the other side in the dark, Yi Xian's gaze fell on Li Jinwu and he was somewhat shocked. This old man's strength was not ordinary. Li Guangxing felt extremely aggrieved. He knew that he and Shanghai had been schemed against. Who schemed against me? As if he'd thought of something, he suddenly gazed at Jun Wuyin and the others. "It's all of you. You're the ones who framed Shanghai." Jun Wuyin gazed at Li Guangxing. "Li Guangxing, continue your performance. We'll just watch quietly." Li Guangxing gazed at Li Jinwu. "Elder Li, they're definitely the ones who joined forces to frame Shanghai. Elder Li, please investigate this." Li Jinwu looked at Li Guangxing. "You asked your Shanghai disciples to inform me that the treasure is in your hands. Just now when I asked you, you were prepared to give it to me. But now you're telling me that they framed you. Do you think I'm stupid?" Li Guangxing's expression was quite unsightly. Li Jinwu's eyes narrowed slightly. "Li Guangxing, according to the old man, you're trying to take the treasure of the Worldwide Academy for yourself. The old man will give you one last chance. If you don't hand it over, then the old man will torture you today." Li Guangxing's expression was ugly to the extreme. At this moment he felt extremely wronged. Seeing that Li Guangxing didn't speak, Li Jinwu suddenly disappeared. Li Guangxing was greatly alarmed when he saw this scene. He immediately turned around and ran. His speed was extremely fast and in the blink of an eye he entered Demonic City. But in next to no time, a powerful force directly sent him flying. Everyone was stunned. An old man walked out of Demonic City. Li Guangxing, who was blasted flying, hurriedly said, "Ancestor, save me." "Ancestor." The old man in front of him was the #1 figure in Shanghai, Li Nianxing. Li Nianxing didn't look at Li Guangxing. Instead he looked at Li Jinwu, who was not far away. "Brother Li, you should know that even if you gave us 100 guts, we wouldn't dare to take this item for ourselves. Moreover, if we wanted to take this item for ourselves, we wouldn't have informed you." Li Jinwu said, "Then give me an explanation." Li Nianxing nodded. "Of course." As he spoke he looked at Li Guangxing. "Explain?" Li Guangxing said in a low voice, "It was still in my spatial ring just now. But when Elder Li came here, the treasure suddenly disappeared." Jun Wuxian sneered. "Suddenly disappeared? Can't you make up a better reason?" "This chapter isn't finished. Please continue." Li Guangxing said in a low voice, "I feel that someone is framing Demonic City." Meanwhile Jun Wuxian shook his head. "I feel that Demonic City is treating us like fools." As he spoke he looked at Li Jinwu. "Elder Li, we can all testify that the treasure is in Li Guangxing's hands. In my opinion, the Li family wants to take it for themselves. Elderly, I suggest that we directly destroy Demonic City. Jun Wuxian. Li Guangxing stared fixedly at Jun Wuxian. You want my Li family to die so badly? What? Is the death of my Li family beneficial to you? Jun Wuxian smiled. Li Guangxing, what did you say to us before? Such a divine item, if you have the strength to obtain it, you can run away with it. Now, you called Elder Li of the Myriad Dimensional Academy over and told him that the pagoda disappeared. Are you insulting our intelligence? Li Guangxing was about to speak when Li Jinwu suddenly said, Li family, the old man doesn't want to waste words with you. I'll give you one last chance. If you don't hand over the treasure, Demonic City will disappear from this world today. Li Nianxing looked at Li Guangxing. That item, is it in your hands? Li Guangxing shook his head. It's not in my hands. When he spoke up to here, he seemed to have thought of something and he hurriedly said, when Chi-Chi and I used the spatial talisman to escape earlier, someone was helping us from the shadows. It's absolutely that person who helped us. Right, it's absolutely that person who's playing tricks. So, Li Nianxing shook his head and sighed. Such a divine item fell into your hands so easily. Even if you think with your toes, you should know that it's not normal. Li Guangxing slightly lowered his head. I was stupid. Li Nianxing looked at Li Jinwu. Brother Li, has this matter been resolved? Li Jinwu was about to speak when Li Nianxing suddenly said, actually, Brother Li should also know that there's something fishy about this matter. Firstly, Yi Xian handing over the item so easily is not normal. Secondly, Yun Qi being able to bring it back so easily is also not normal. Thirdly, Guangxing isn't stupid. If he really wanted to keep the item for himself, he wouldn't have sent someone to invite Brother Li. To be honest, the life and death of Demonic City isn't important. Everyone in the surroundings was looking at the scene revealed by the crystal ball. Yi Xian smiled and turned around to leave. At this moment he suddenly frowned. Beside him, a sharp gaze was staring at him. P.S. Your monthly votes are mine. Lin Xiu shook his head and concentrated on healing his injuries. Around an hour later, Lin Xiu suddenly stood up. He glanced at the surroundings and said that Yi Xian might have returned. Everyone be careful. Everyone instantly became vigilant when they heard this. Right at this moment, the head of a man behind Lin Xiu flew into the air. Everyone in the surroundings was greatly shocked when they saw this scene. Lin Xiu suddenly stabbed his spear towards the right, and space exploded apart where the tip of his spear descended. However, there was nothing there. The surroundings were silent to the point a falling needle could be heard. Lin Xiu's expression was icy cold as he glanced coldly at the surroundings. Yi Xian, do you dare to come out? Right at this moment, the head of another student flew into the air. Blood sprayed out like a fountain. However, there was still no sign of the person who attacked. Everyone was astounded to the extreme. Lin Xiu suddenly roared furiously. Yi Xian, come out if you have the ability. Hiss. Another head flew into the air behind him. Lin Xiu immediately turned around. Return. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone turned around and vanished at the ends of the starry sky. Return to the fifth dimension. Lin Xiu knew that if Yi Xian didn't come out and continued carrying out assassinations like this, then he would be utterly helpless against Yi Xian. Now he only had a single path, and it was to return to the fifth dimension. As for the mission, he didn't think too much about it because staying alive was more important. In next to no time, everyone arrived at the dual world sky. However, when they arrived at the dual world sky, only 4 people remained. Moreover, during this entire process, they didn't see Yi Xian's people at all. In next to no time, when they arrived before the seal, another 2 bloody heads flew into the air. Only 2 people remained. At this moment, Lin Xiu suddenly stopped, because he sensed an aura locking onto him. Lin Xiu looked at the 2 people beside him. You 2 leave. However, the 2 of them shook their heads. Lin Xiu shouted angrily, leave quickly. The 2 of them hesitated for a moment and were just about to leave when a sword directly slashed through the throat of one of them. That man's head flew into the air. The other person was greatly alarmed and immediately turned around to flee. However, when he arrived before the seal, a sword directly pierced through his chest. Seeing this, Lin Xiu slowly closed his eyes. Meanwhile, a man appeared in front of Lin Xiu. The man wore a cloud-colored robe and held a sword in his hand. The arrival was precisely Yi Xian. Lin Xiu looked at Yi Xian and mocked, are you a swordsman or an assassin? Yi Xian chuckled lightly and was just about to speak when Lin Xiu suddenly shouted angrily, Universal Dimensional Mirror. When his voice fell, a mirror suddenly flew out from his chest. Chapter 869. Yi Xian didn't choose to kill Lin Xiu directly. This was Lian Qian's intention. As for why, he didn't know. He only knew that Lian Qian wouldn't harm him. And at this moment, when he saw this so-called universal dimensional mirror, Yi Xian's expression turned solemn. Danger. This was what he felt. Right at this moment, Lian Qian's voice suddenly sounded out in Yi Xian's mind. It really is this universal dimensional mirror. Yi Xian asked, Miss Lian Qian recognizes this mirror? Lian Qian said, I recognize it and I'm very familiar with it. That's because I was the one who completed the sealing power in this mirror. Yi Xian said in a low voice, this mirror is dangerous. Lian Qian said, of course it's dangerous. This thing is only inferior to your Xiao Ta in the Worldwide Academy. Yi Xian looked at the universal dimensional mirror in front of him. What should I do now? Lian Qian said, don't resist. Yi Xian nodded slightly, all right. Opposite Yi Xian, Lin Xiu suddenly said fiercely, Yi Xian, you'll pay a painful price for your arrogance. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly activated the universal dimensional mirror. In an instant, a white light enveloped Yi Xian, but Yi Xian didn't dodge. Soon the space around Yi Xian started stacking layer by layer. This space slowly formed an extremely strange shape and he was in this space. No, at this moment he felt like he was in countless spaces. Simply put, at this moment he felt like he was being divided into countless pieces by space. It was somewhat absurd, but it was also so real. Yi Xian was shocked in his heart. Miss Lian Qian? At this moment, Lian Qian suddenly appeared by Yi Xian's side. Lian Qian glanced at the surroundings, opened her palm and said softly, withdraw. As soon as she finished speaking, the space around her started trembling. At this moment, a ball of white light suddenly appeared in front of her. Ah Qian? Lian Qian nodded slightly and said softly, little Wei, long time no see. The ball of white light said excitedly, it really is you. Lian Qian smiled and said, it's me. Let my friend go first. The white light said, all right. As soon as it finished speaking, the space around Yi Xian immediately returned to normal. After returning to normal, Yi Xian took a deep look at the ball of white light. His eyes were filled with fear. At that moment he really felt the aura of death. The ball of white light suddenly flew in front of Lian Qian. It seemed very intimate. Where's Big Sister? Is Big Sister with you? Lian Qian shook her head. Eldest sister isn't here, but she will be here when the time comes. White light said excitedly, good. At that time we can reunite again. Lian Qian said softly, little Wei, why did you submit to that Chen Tian? Did he force you? Little Wei said, no, he said he would help me find you, so I followed him. Lian Qian said solemnly, why don't you follow us now? Little Wei did not hesitate, all right. I'll follow you in the future. Hearing that, by the side, the corners of Yi Xian's mouth raised slightly. This was a tremendous benefit. Lian Qian opened her palm. That streak of white light directly entered her palm, and she disappeared instead. Right now Xiaoling, Lian Qian and the rest were all inside the space that Lian Qian created. Because the world prison pagoda was no longer on him. Fortunately, this did not have any effect. The space in the field returned to normal. Yi Xian appeared in front of Lin Xiu. When she saw Yi Xian, Lin Xiu's complexion instantly turned pale. How is this possible? Yi Xian looked at Lin Xiu and did not speak. He directly vanished on the spot. Far away, that Lin Xiu's expression changed drastically, and he suddenly blocked with his spear horizontally. Swish! A slicing sound suddenly sounded out. That long spear in Lin Xiu's hand directly split into two. Immediately following that, a wisp of sword light directly pressed against the space between Lin Xiu's brows. Lin Xiu's body stiffened. And at this moment, an angry shout suddenly sounded from above the seal. Yi Xian. Yi Xian raised his head and looked at the Myriad Dimension Academy's dean behind the seal. The next moment he held his sword and slashed. Swish! Lin Xiu's head directly flew off. Yi Xian held his sword and lightly patted it. Bang! That head directly flew in front of the dean behind the seal. Yi Xian looked at the dean with an ice-cold expression. I will graciously accept this great gift from the Myriad Dimension Academy. Help me tell Chen Tian that I, Yi Xian, thank him. After saying that, he turned and left. After the seal, the dean's expression was extremely ugly. Yi Xian returned to the Black-Yellow Great World's northern territory. As soon as he returned, Emperor Shi and Elder Bamboo Forest found him. Yi Xian said, Seniors, do you want to ask about the five-dimensional universe? Emperor Shi nodded. Yes, little friend. You have already been to the five-dimensional universe. How is it over there? Yi Xian thought for a moment and then said, the martial arts civilization over there is indeed more advanced than ours. Not only that, there is also the talisman path, the alchemy path, the forging path. I have already seen how formidable the talisman path is. In the future, if you two seniors encounter people who hold purple talismans, you must be careful. If they hold orange talismans, then you must be even more careful. Emperor, she hesitated for a moment and then said, can we go now? Yi Xian shook his head. It's best not to. Because behind the seal, there are experts from the Myriad Dimension Academy standing guard. The reason I can go there is because I have a special concealment technique. Emperor Shi's expression dimmed when he heard this. At this moment Yi Xian said, seniors, don't be discouraged. When the time comes, everyone can go up. The two of them looked at Yi Xian. You guys know that I'm not young anymore. I can't write every day. I have to find a wife. Tell me, how many people who read my book have gone from being single to married and having children? And one more question. Do any readers have a young and beautiful sister that you can introduce to Lao Wan? You guys know that I'm an honest person. You can rest assured. In this life I will protect you. In the starry sky, the woman in the plain dress walked forward slowly. More and more karma threads appeared on her body. Dressed in plain clothes, elegant like an immortal, not for immortality, not knowing the road ahead, not asking about the way back, proud of the world. 10,000 Dimensions Academy was not able to hide the fact that the dean was instantly killed. This matter quickly spread throughout the fifth dimension. After this incident, the four-dimensional universe became more mysterious. There was someone in the four-dimensional universe who could instantly kill an Academy venerable. What kind of expert was the Academy master? That was a life-and-death realm powerhouse. This kind of expert, even in the fifth dimension, could be considered to be at the peak level. However, he was killed by someone from the fourth dimension. This time, many forces began to redefine the strength of the fourth dimension. This world was not as weak as they thought it was. Of course, there were even more people who rejoiced in other people's misfortune, because the Worldwide Academy had lost another super expert. In the past, the Worldwide Academy's reputation in the fifth dimension was extremely high. Green City Yi Clan Ancestral Hall. Ancestors, Yi Xian has no talent, no virtue? From now on, Yi Xian's position as prince will be removed and Yi Lang will succeed him. The person who spoke was an old man in a black robe. Not far behind the old man stood a youth. The youth had a faint smile on his face. This person was Yi Lang. On both sides were the elders of the Yi clan. Why? At this moment, a somewhat timid voice suddenly rang out in the ancestral hall. Everyone looked over and saw a little girl standing at the door. The little girl was about 12 or 13 years old. Her two small hands were tightly holding the hem of her skirt. Her face had a trace of sickly paleness. She looked a little weak and there was a trace of timidity in her eyes. This little girl was called Yi Ling. She was Yi Xian's biological sister. This time, when she heard that the clan wanted to remove Yi Xian, she rushed over regardless of her illness. The black-robed old man frowned. Yi Ling, what are you doing? The little girl called Yi Ling bowed slightly to the people in the ancestral hall and said timidly, Great Elder, my brother Yi Xian is the prince. Why did you cripple him for no reason? The Great Elder coldly looked at Yi Ling. This is a family matter, why are you interrupting? Yi Ling was clearly a little fearful. She did not dare to look the Great Elder in the eye, but she did not leave. Instead, she mustered up her courage and walked into the ancestral hall. She bowed to the elders on both sides of the hall and said, Elders, my brother is currently fighting with the Li family for the mining rights of the mine in Nanshan. Yi Xian lifted his head to look at him, asking savagely, Your man? As he spoke, he stomped on Zhang Mu's face. Zhang Mu's face turned into a bloody mess as he screamed, Prince, save me. Yi Xian did not care about Zhang Mu as he walked to Yi Ling's side. Seeing Yi Ling's state, Yi Xian felt as though his heart was being sliced apart. He clenched his fists and his entire body trembled. When Yi Ling saw Yi Xian, tears welled up in her eyes. Brother, it hurts. Hearing this, Yi Xian's expression turned savage. In the next instant he charged in front of Zhang Mu and kicked Zhang Mu's head. Qingqing Yi Clan Ancestral Hall. Ancestors, Yi Xian has no talent, no virtue? From now on Yi Xian's position as prince shall be replaced by Yi Lang. The one who spoke was an old man in black robes. Not far behind the old man, there was a youth with a faint smile on his face. This person was Yi Lang. On both sides there were the Yi clan elders. Why? Right at this moment, a slightly timid voice suddenly resounded within the ancestral hall. Everyone turned to look and saw a little girl standing at the door. She was about 12 or 13 years old, and her hands were tightly gripping the hem of her skirt. Her face had a sickly pallor and she looked a little weak. There was even a trace of fear in her eyes. This little girl was called Yi Ling, and she was Yi Xian's younger sister. When she heard that Yi Xian was to be replaced, she disregarded her illness and rushed over. The black-robed old man frowned. "Yi Ling, what are you doing?" The little girl called Yi Ling bowed to everyone in the hall and asked timidly, "Great elder, my brother Yi Xian is the prince. Why did you cripple him for no reason?" The great elder looked at Yi Ling coldly. "This is a matter of the clan, what are you interrupting for?" Yi Ling was clearly a little fearful. She did not dare to look the great elder in the eye, but she did not leave. Instead, she mustered up her courage and walked into the ancestral hall. She bowed to the elders on both sides of the hall and said, "Elders, my brother is currently fighting with the Li family for the mining rights of the mine in Nanshan. He is now fighting for the family, and it is unknown whether he is alive or dead. However, the family has used a groundless excuse to remove his position as the crown prince." Impudent. The great elder suddenly raged. "Whether he's stripped or not, it's not up to a little girl like you to decide. Men, drag her away." At this time, the new prince Yi Lang suddenly laughed. "He should be flogged 30 times as a warning to others." The great elder replied coldly, "Then flog him 30 times. Very quickly 2 Yi clan guards rushed in. Yi Ling clenched her fists and said angrily, "This is unfair. My brother has risked his life for the clan for so many years and even now he's fighting for the clan. The clan is unfair to him." One of the guards glanced at the new prince Yi Lang. Chapter 872. The Tao of Runes. Yi Xian began to learn the Tao of Runes from Fu Xiaotian. To Yi Xian's surprise, although they were in the hall, no one noticed them. Not only that, there were people who came but did not seem to notice them. He knew it must be because of Fu Xiaotian. The strength of a person like him could only be described as unpredictable. It was true that his immeasurable sword was ineffective against the person in front of him. After all, even Qin Tian could not notice him. As Fu Xiaotian said, the Tao of Runes was not particularly difficult. At least, it was not that difficult in his opinion. Moreover, with Fu Xiaotian's guidance, his speed of improvement in the Tao of Runes could only be described as godly. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. The auction officially began. Yi Xian did not pay attention to the auction. He had fallen in love with the Tao of Runes. Now he was trying to draw a talisman. Moreover, Fu Xiaotian directly asked him to draw a purple talisman. That was too high a starting point. The Hall of Runes. More and more people were gathered in the hall. However, those who entered the hall were all powerful and influential people. As for those who were weaker and had no status, they were outside the hall. However, they could still see what was going on in the hall. Inside the hall, Xin Xinghe glanced at the crowd and said with a smile, "Thank you everyone for attending the auction held by me, Fu Wenzong. The auction is very simple. The highest bidder wins." At that moment, an old man suddenly said, "Sect leader Xin, according to the old man's knowledge, your sect has never lacked money. Here's the question. What is it that your sect is looking for in this auction?" Xin Xinghe smiled faintly. "The secret crystal." Hearing that, everyone's expression changed. The secret crystal. This was a special material that was extremely useful. It could be said that rune masters and blacksmiths loved it the most, especially rune masters. This was because if a rune master wanted to refine a purple talisman or above, he would need this dense crystal. These crystals were extremely difficult to obtain. To obtain them, one could only go to one place: the edge of the void dimension. Every year, a few mysterious crystals would leak out from the void dimension. Although they were not many, they were very few. Moreover, every time a mysterious crystal appeared, there would be a fight over it. It could be said that the most valuable currency in the 5th dimension was these mysterious crystals. With the secret crystals, you can exchange anything, even divine weapons and orange talismans. Now that Fu Wenzong had requested to exchange crystals for the World Prison Pagoda, it could be said that this directly stopped most people because not many people had crystals. Xin Xinghe continued, "Ladies and gentlemen, let's not waste any more time. Let's begin." Even now he is fighting for the clan. The clan is unfair to him. One of the guards glanced at the new prince Yi Lang. He knew that this was his chance to shine. The guard sneered. "Young master Yi Lang inherits the prince's position. What are you yelling about?" As he spoke, he raised his hand and slapped Yi Ling's face. Slap. A crisp slap sounded. Yiling's right cheek instantly turned red and swollen. However, she did not cry. She only held her cheek tightly. Yiling looked at the guard and smiled. "What's your name?" The guard hurriedly bowed. "This subordinate, Zhang Mu, greets the prince." Yiling nodded. "You're not bad. After I become the prince, I will need 10 guards. You can be my guard from now on." Hearing this, Zhang Mu was overjoyed. He hurriedly bowed deeply. "This subordinate will go through fire and water for the prince. I will do anything for you." Yiling nodded. "Drag him away. This person is disturbing the ancestral hall. Don't hold back. Do you understand?" Zhang Mu glanced at Yiling. When he saw the murderous intent in Yiling's eyes, he understood. He immediately grabbed Yiling's hair and dragged her out. At this moment, Zhang Mu suddenly stopped as if he had seen something. Inside the ancestral hall, everyone turned their heads to look outside. Not far from the ancestral hall, a young man was walking towards the ancestral hall. The young man was wearing a tight-fitting robe. The robe was tattered and covered in blood. The young man was Yi Xian, who had rushed back from Nanshan. Seeing Yi Xian, Yiling's mouth curled into a cold smile. Inside the ancestral hall, the elders frowned. The great elder narrowed his eyes. His face was dark and gloomy. No one knew what he was thinking. From afar, when Yi Xian saw Zhang Mu dragging Yiling, his face turned savage. "Who gave you the guts to touch my sister?" When Zhang Mu saw Yi Xian, his face changed. He hurriedly looked at Yiling and was about to speak. At this moment, Yi Xian leaped in front of him like a ferocious tiger. Before the latter could react, Yi Xian's fist landed on his face. Bang! Zhang Mu felt a wave of dizziness and he stumbled and fell. Yiling did not stop there. He charged towards Zhang Mu again. At this time, Yiling suddenly roared, "Yi Xian, he's my man. How dare you?" Yi Xian suddenly stepped on Zhang Mu's chest. Oh! Zhang Mu spat out a mouthful of blood. Seeing this, Yiling's face turned ugly. Yi Xian lifted his head to look at him, asking savagely, "Your man?" As he spoke, he stomped on Zhang Mu's face. Zhang Mu's face turned into a bloody mess as he screamed, "Prince, save me!" Yi Xian did not care about Zhang Mu as he walked to Yiling's side. Seeing Yiling's state, Yi Xian felt as though his heart was being cut by a knife. He clenched his fists and his entire body trembled. When Yiling saw Yi Xian, her tears flowed. "Brother, it hurts, it hurts." Hearing this, Yi Xian's expression turned savage. "Moreover, as long as we're strong enough, why would we need to fear him?" Qin Tian shook his head. "I'm not targeting him." Gai said, "Please enlighten me, Chief." Qin Tian suddenly asked, Gai, what do you think of our Worldwide Academy's position in the 5-dimensional universe? Tell me the truth." After a moment of silence, Gai said, "It's far from what it used to be. The current Worldwide Academy could be said to be worlds apart from when the Prophet was still around." Qin Tian chuckled and said, "Today our Worldwide Academy is getting worse day by day. If this continues, at most in 100 years, at that time, if our Worldwide Academy doesn't produce a super evildoer, our Worldwide Academy will completely disappear from the 5-dimensional universe." This isn't an alarmist talk because our Worldwide Academy has something that everyone in the 5-dimensional universe wants. Worldwide Bookstore. This bookstore was left behind by the Prophet. In the 5-dimensional universe, no one could resist the temptation of this bookstore. And now these forces were still a little afraid of the Worldwide Academy, so they didn't dare to force their way in. After all, the Prophet's prestige was still there, and that female teacher was still alive. However, if this continued, the Worldwide Academy would only become weaker and weaker. Unless, as Qin Tian said, a super genius appeared in the Worldwide Academy, the kind of super evildoer that could change the structure of the 5-dimensional universe. However, the Worldwide Academy couldn't pin its hopes on this kind of illusory thing. At this time, Qin Tian said, "The reason why we want to kill Yi Xian is because that Xiao Ta has already recognized him as his master." Hearing this, Gai's expression changed. "Recognized him as his master?" Qin Tian nodded. If he didn't recognize him as his master, then Xiao Ta definitely wouldn't cooperate with him. To put it simply, the biggest threat to us in the 5-dimensional universe is this Yi Xian. Gai was silent. If this Xiao Ta had already recognized Yi Xian as his master, then just like what Qin Tian said, this Yi Xian was really the biggest threat to the Worldwide Academy. This meant that Yi Xian had a high chance of obtaining the Worldwide Bookstore. As for others, even if they obtained the World Prison Pagoda, they might not be able to open the Worldwide Bookstore. This was because in order to open the Worldwide Bookstore, the World Prison Pagoda must cooperate. Qin Tian continued, "Moreover, right now, everyone is looking at our worldwide academy. They want to see how much strength our worldwide academy has. And this time if we don't shock them, those forces will start to target us. Speaking up to here, he paused and then said, actually, I made a wrong move from the beginning. But now I can only make mistakes step by step. There is no turning back. Guy said softly, Palace Master is gambling with the academy. Qin Tian smiled and said, right now if we don't gamble we can only die a slow death. Saying this, he shook his head and smiled, everyone says that I, Qin Tian, usurped her position as Palace Master. What's funny is that I strongly recommended her to be Palace Master, but she still let go and left. This time she left for so many years. Guy was silent. He was still relatively clear about what happened in the past. That year, Qin Tian did not have the intention to fight for the position of Palace Master. This was because the female teacher was too dazzling. As long as she wanted it, the position of Palace Master would definitely belong to her. Unfortunately, that female teacher did not have the slightest intention of becoming the Palace Master. Guy sighed softly, I wonder where she is now. If that female teacher was here, the position of the Worldwide Academy in the fifth dimension would be greatly different. Unfortunately, after she left the Worldwide Academy she never came back. At this time Qin Tian suddenly said, let her be. Our current top priority is to get rid of this Yi Xian. This person can make the pagoda recognize him as its master. We must get rid of him. Guy said, what about the woman in the fourth dimension? The woman in the plain dress. Hearing this, Qin Tian's expression suddenly became solemn. After a moment, Qin Tian shook his head, don't provoke this person for now. I will personally go down and meet this person another day. Guy nodded. Now there are already many forces standing on Fu Wenzong's side. Fu Wenzong has already laid his hands on our people. Some of the disciples outside have already been killed by Fu Wenzong. Qin Tian said calmly, ask all the martial masters in Wuyuan to come back. Also, pass down the order that the students who are studying outside must immediately return to the academy. Those who do not return within 3 days will be treated as traitors of the academy. Saying this, he paused and said, ask the people from the martial arts pavilion to get ready. Martial arts pavilion. Hearing this, Gai's expression became solemn. She knew that once the people from the martial arts pavilion were sent out, it would mean that it was a real battle of life and death. However, now everyone was watching the Worldwide Academy. If the Worldwide Academy did not do anything, then the prestige of the Worldwide Academy in the fifth dimension would plummet. Fu Wenzong. In the first hall, Yi Xian had already started to draw an orange talisman, which was also a space-type orange talisman. He did not draw other types of talismans for now because he was more proficient in space-type talismans. Therefore, he wanted to familiarize himself with space-type talismans first. It had to be said that the orange talisman was much more difficult than the purple talisman. Lian Qian replied, I don't know. Yi Xian was speechless. At this time in the distance, Qin Tian suddenly pointed with a finger, execute. His finger landed on Yi Xian, and the executing heaven brush suddenly turned into a white light and flew out at an extremely fast speed. Yi Xian did not dare to be careless, and immediately raised his sword to slash. A boundless sword. As the sword slashed down, a powerful force suddenly erupted from the book world, and Yi Xian had already disappeared. However, at the place where he disappeared, a wisp of blood floated. At the moment when Yi Xian disappeared, Qin Tian narrowed his eyes, and he gently pointed with his finger, defend. As soon as he said this, the executing heaven brush suddenly turned into a white light and appeared above his head, and his entire body was enveloped by the white light. At this time, Yi Xian suddenly appeared in front of Qin Tian, and at the same time his executing heaven sword directly slashed at the white light. Boom! The white light shook violently and cracked, but Yi Xian was instantly sent flying. As soon as Yi Xian stopped, he looked at his right hand, and at this moment his right hand had cracked and his bones were visible. Yi Xian looked at the executing heaven brush above Qin Tian's head with a solemn expression on his face. Lian Qian suddenly said, this brush isn't simple at all. It can be used for both offense and defense. Moreover, this defense isn't just any defense, it can reflect the opponent's strength back to the opponent. Actually, you were injured by your own strength just now. Yi Xian frowned slightly, it can reflect? Is it that heaven-defying? Lian Qian said, yes. Moreover, this brush has 2 other functions and one of them is copy. It can copy the opponent's moves to counterattack. Be careful. As soon as Lien Qian finished speaking, the executing heaven brush above Chen Tian's head suddenly transformed into a sword, and in the next moment, the sword transformed into a ray of light and slashed towards Yi Xian. Yi Xian was stunned when he saw this. Boundless sword. The sword that the executing heaven brush had transformed into was actually executing the boundless sword technique. Could it be done like this? Soon, the shock on Yi Xian's face turned into a strange expression. The sword. If the brush had transformed into a knife or something else, he would be a little afraid because the brush was indeed quite strong. However, this brush had transformed into a sword. Yi Xian did not dodge and let the sword stab into his forehead. At this moment, Lien Qian's voice suddenly sounded, "How should I say this? That you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."